The World Fantasy Awards happened this weekend, and it was won by the same guy who won the HUGO Award. Now, this is a fantasy award. The HUGO Awards are supposed to be a science fiction award, but they increasingly just do fantasy, as a lot of that crowd does not actually write or read science fiction anymore. And this is very, very odd for a couple of reasons. One, that doesn't happen that a book wins both awards like this very often. Two, this is a straight white male. So if you look at the last 10 years of what's happened with these awards, you'll notice a trend, and this bucked the trend. So how did he get there? Well, I could tell you, and I know exactly the reason, which you're going to have to wait for in just a moment. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Join us as we talk about all things in fantasy and science fiction. This is your real fantasy news, my friends, and I'm glad you're here. I am blacklisted from this industry. You can count on me never to win awards because I just buck exactly what they do and, of course, talk about what they do, which I'm not allowed to do over here. And I write books that are fun like science fiction used to be, like real sci-fi, right? And so these are my new books. It's a trilogy that I wrote all in advance, and I'm funding it right here for you. And this is about space exploration. It's about a sense of wonder in science fiction. It's about heroism again. Each one of these books has its own sci-fi concept, its own full plot, and its own full conclusion. And I, of course, build the characters throughout it. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Support real science fiction. Support independent science fiction. This is where it's at on the channel. Grab this today, guys. It's in the description below. It's called Valiant Frontiers by me, and I appreciate everybody who's done so far. All right. So how did a straight white male sweep the HUGO and World Fantasy Awards for Best Novel? Over the last decade, the HUGO Awards and World Fantasy Awards have been cesspools of identity politics, pushing the identity of the author over any literary excellence. So how did Robert Jackson Bennett win both awards this year with his novel The Tainted Cup, when he's known to be a straight white man and identity causes one to be a pariah in modern publishing? The answer is simple. He played the game. So if you don't know the background, both the HUGO Awards and the World Fantasy Awards have been jokes over the last decade, with the latter getting less attention than the former. The HUGO Awards caused particular controversy in the mid-2010s when a group led by Larry Correia called itself the Sad Puppies, noticing that the awards were increasingly given to books based on author identity and political virtue signaling rather than quality works. The result was the HUGO Awards changing the rules for their voting in 2017, which led to a complete domination of nearly all women winning the award every year, or presenting as women. So men pretending to be women, they can win too. But for the best novel category, a man has not won the award since 2015, which is statistically impossible in science fiction if the narrative of publishing holds that men dominate the genre. They always say, for an example, that we need more women in science fiction. We need women-only spaces. We need science fiction to be more inclusive of women and the like, because it's such a man-dominated genre. And that's exactly why they do this all the time, right? And so if that's the case, how could there be 10 years of women winning the awards and sweeping it like this if men are 80% of the genre? Well, for the real readers and the real people out there who don't win these awards, men are 80% of the genre, maybe even 90%. But it doesn't matter. Within these publishing circles, it's all women. You don't even get published these days for the most part unless you are a woman. That's just how it goes. But we'll get to why this guy broke through this in a second. Even though it's not as surrounded by controversy, the World Fantasy Award has done similar. Though 2 books won in 2018, one of which of the 2 was penned by a man. They had a co-winner. The only year that a man actually won the award outright was by total coincidence, also 2015. Notice how both of them changed and both did the same direction at the same time. They're both controlled by the publishing industry and, of course, voted on and propagated by publishing industry insiders. Since then, it's been a feminist nightmare for sci-fi and fantasy literary scene until this year, when author Robert Jackson Bennett finally broke the streak. So how did he come to prominence? What made his novel The Tainted Cup something that could sweep both awards? Jackson's early career was also award-dominating, but this is 2010 to 2012. This was prior to the social justice explosion. About the last point a white male could establish himself in the genre. He got in before all of this hit, and that's exactly why he was able to do so. He did so with the books Mr. Shiver and The Company Man, blending horror elements with SFF, and world building and publishing found him particularly appealing. However, that's not enough in modern times. His more recent series all feature LGBTQ protagonists, including lesbians in his Founderside trilogy, and when it comes to The Tainted Cup, it also follows the pattern. The multiple award-winning story, Din, the main character, develops a male-on-male romantic bond with Legion Captain Kefis Strovi. It's a gay propaganda once again pushed into the mainstream. Now, this is billed as, to sell it to people, a Holmes and Watson-style detective duo that take the stage in this fantasy with a mystery twist from acclaimed author Robert Jackson Bennett. Look at this. Any endearing fantasy version of Knives Out, a great murder mystery is hard to pull off, but he structures this perfectly. A Locus Award finalist, Edgar Award nominee, Best Book of the Year, New York Times are they're all about it. Now, what is this? It's a gay romance, right? And it's got in a Sherlock Holmes with a fantasy. So if that just sounds like wait a minute, it's Sherlock Holmes fantasy novel. That's not like super. Why would this win a sci-fi award? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, except for the gay romance element. It doesn't make sense why it wins the World Fantasy Award for the best fantasy. There has to be a better fantasy than a Sherlock Holmes knockoff, but it's a gay romance. That's your answer, guys. It was an LGBT deal. The Wikipedia even lists its book under 2024 LGBTQ-related literary works and American LGBTQ novels, under showing the prominent themes therein. So that's what it is, guys. This is just another gay propaganda book. That's why it did. It's not by accident that the only straight white male to win both awards has a gay fantasy book, and it's increasingly pushing all of his works in that direction. This is what the establishment pushes across culture. Now, commenters on Reddit even talked about it, and they talked about it in the way that he did this. The gay romance is why this won the awards. It's more than just about the character's sexuality, saying that the characters have more depth beyond that, and that's exactly why. So this is a normalization of gay romance, and that's why it won both awards. It's absolutely crazy to look at, but it's actually par for the course in what we see in modern publishing. If you look at the Nebula Awards, like everybody who was up for the Nebula Awards was all writing about gay romance. If you looked at the Hugo Awards, other than this, there was a weird lesbian romance that was up for it. And I think that won the Nebula Award. But it didn't quite win the Hugo. And it was about like a monster, like who was in love, like she was a female who was in love with another female who wasn't a monster, and she eats people and was going to eat her, but loves her anyway. I mean, it was very, very creepy, weird fetish stuff. And that's all that fantasy and science fiction is now. It's not, going out and being the chosen one and you have to fight against the dark evil one and you got the great sword that you have to get, in order to stab the evil one because it's the only sword that was forged by elfin hands back in whatever. You don't have those sweeping adventures anymore. You don't have that. In science fiction, you certainly don't have exploring strange new worlds. You have exploring strange new genders. And that's the whole problem with the entire industry in a nutshell. This guy exemplifies this. If you look at his early work, he actually, can write well. He has the craft down. He was doing it back then, and he was writing books that were just normal fantasy books. And then he pivoted to every book he puts out being a part of this LGBTQ propaganda. Like I said, his sci-fi series has lesbians. Another book he just came out with prior to this also features a gay protagonist. He's playing the game, and he's pushing this all in this direction because that's, one, there's a couple reasons. One, he knows he can get further with this. Two, publishing pushes it as well, right? And that's all you see in the mainstream industry. That's why we're pushing back and doing something different. This is exactly what Valiant Frontiers is supposed to actually change and make of course, a new, better culture out of. So check this out. It's in the description below. Book 1 starts with the Soul Catcher, goes into the Safe Place, and then Time Bomb, my time travel adventure. Great stuff here with none of the degeneracy. And I really hope you guys will support our channel and support our efforts against what the mainstream's doing. It's so important. I appreciate you guys for being here. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about this. We'll be back soon.